Good morning, Connie with Bourbon Amigos. Gonna start off the day with a little event here at TX Whiskey, Fort Worth. Military Appreciation Day. See if I can get this special bottle and then end it with the tour of the distillery. See y'all in a little bit.
Writing letters to the military, et cetera, et cetera. So just feel free to.
Military Appreciation Day. Special release bottles. Texas whiskey cocktails. Hellfighter.
Cheers.
Cheers.
First thing I'm going to say, my name's Corey. If anybody has any questions at any time, feel free to shout those out for me. I love whiskey. I love our product. I love answering questions. It tells me I'm telling the story the right way and everybody's engaged. You guys picked a beautiful day. Denver, or sorry, Greeley, for if you're not from here, you're not familiar, it's not like this all the time. Here in like 2 weeks, it's going to be 100 degrees, and then for 6 months after that, it'll be 100 degrees. So you really just kind of made it under the wire there. Great job. The next thing I'll say is every whiskey has its own story. That's what makes whiskey beautiful, right? So I'm here to tell you guys our story. I'll start from the very beginning. We have two founders, Troy Robertson, Leonard Firestone. Both are Fort Worth locals. Both kind of knew of each other before this whole venture because they had kids in the same playgroup. But they didn't really get to know each other until they both independently booked a tour of a different craft distillery, saw each other there, recognized each other, got to talking, realized that they shared the same dream of opening the first distillery in North Texas. Now, that was back in 2008. Moving forward out of 2010, that dream of theirs becomes a reality. They opened our first distillery over on 901 West Vickery, which is just south of downtown Fort Worth for anybody who doesn't know. At that distillery, they could produce about 3 to 4 barrels of product a day. So not a tremendous amount of production coming out of that facility. Now, moving forward now to 2012. This is the year that we released our first product to market, which is our TX blended whiskey. That product the following year, 2013, we enter into the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, which is kind of like the Super Bowl of whiskey competitions. At that competition, our blended whiskey wins double gold and best American craft whiskey. So really puts us on the map. Tells all the whiskey lovers of the world we have a product that you want to try. Boy, did they come and try. Our other distillery was very small. We had lines wrapped around the block for that product for a very long time, major distribution problems. We couldn't even keep our local bar stocked with it. Now, moving forward now to 2016. At this point, we have aged our first bourbon. We released that product to market. We entered that product in that same competition. It wins double gold. So that tells the world not only do we have one product you need to try, but we might really know what we're doing here at this distillery. Tells our founders, though, it is now time to expand. West Vickery is not going to do it for them anymore. So enter our beautiful whiskey wonderland that you see here behind you and on your drive in. Now, I am going to ask you guys an easy question here real quick. Would anyone like to take a guess as to what this possibly could have been before it was a distillery?
Golf course.
No.
Really?
No,
Country
it's like
club.
seeing your face. I'm so sorry. Yes, it was a golf course. Specifically, it was Glen Gardens Country Club. Glen Gardens was founded all the way back in 1912. The entire property is 112 acres. It's also the home course to both Ben Hogan and Byron Nelson, Hall of Fame golfers for anyone that doesn't know, so a very historic site. Now, a little fun fact I like to throw in here is that whenever we acquired the property, we kept on the grounds crew as staff of our own, and they still maintain that front nine for us to this day. So all of that's the front nine right here. But today we're going to focus more on the back nine. The back nine had to go. Had to put the distillery down somewhere, right? Now, you can kind of see the front of one from here, but maybe on your drive in, did you guys notice the really big dark buildings we have there in the back? Perfect. Those are going to be our barrel barns, so what we call our rick houses. That's where we keep our barrels of bourbon to age. Right now we have two. Each one has a 20,000 barrel capacity, and we have broken ground on a third, even larger one because of patrons like yourselves and future patrons like you guys. Thank you so much. Any questions about our founding before we're going to get walking? All good? All right, we're going to start heading this way. 50-foot column still. Tallest still west of the Mississippi. Maybe just a little bit bigger than that first thing you saw in that window by a little bit. 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Okay, so our grains. All of our grains come from Sawyer Farms down in Hillsboro, Texas. For anyone who's unfamiliar with the area, Hillsboro is just about an hour south on I-35 right here, so very close by. Now, the head of Sawyer Farms, his name is John Sawyer. He's a fourth generation farmer. Our founders got together with John and worked together with him for over a year to see if he could be responsible for producing all of the grains necessary to make our product. Which, like I said, is what we do. Now, this is actually a remarkable feat because grains like wheats, rye, barleys, not native to the state of Texas, very difficult to grow on climate and our soil consistency. But John, with 4 generations of knowledge, he's able to figure it out. All of our grains are locally sourced. Now, a little bit about our mash bill. If you remember what we just said about the corn, 51% or more to be a bourbon, our mash bill is 74% corn, 14% wheat, 12% barley. Now, what you can tell from that kind of mash bill, without even tasting our product, is the corn supplies bourbon its sweetness. So the more corn that's in it, the sweeter it's going to be. The wheat is what contributes to a bourbon's smoothness, or what kind of mellows it out. I'd say if anybody's had other bourbons before, there's a pretty good chance that that bourbon used a rye instead of a wheat. Rye is a very popular option to use in bourbon. Rye is what contributes to a bourbon's spicy flavor. So here we're going for a very sweet, very smooth flavored bourbon. The barley, really more of a fermenting process, not a whole lot of taste coming out of the barley. Now, another thing we say in the bourbon world, it's about 25% of the flavor that you get out of a bourbon comes from the grains that you use. Another 25% comes from the yeast that you use. And the remaining 50% comes from the barrels that you use. So this is that first 25% of flavor here. We're all going to go upstairs now and talk about that next 25%, which is our yeast. Okay, first things first. The grains that we just finished talking about downstairs. All of those grains are stored in big silos out back. From those silos, we're going to run those grains through a double rolling mill. What that does is cracks the shells of those grains open, gets them ready to be cooked. After they've gone through that rolling mill, we're going to roll those grains up this conveyor you see here behind me, drop them in that hopper, which drops in our 8,000-gallon cooker. There they will cook for 4 hours. Now, what's happening in that cooking process is it's turning the starches into sugars, so that whenever we add our yeast strain to it, it can start to feed on those sugars and actually produce that alcohol. Now, we'll do 2 cooks a day, 2 4-hour cooks, 2 8,000-gallon cooks. We'll then pipe that product into one of our 5 18,000-gallon fermenting tanks, which is going to be our yeast strain. This is where we add the yeast to the product. So right now, every other bourbon out there on the market is using a proprietary yeast strain that was founded before Prohibition. Okay, so before the 1930s. When our founders founded this distillery, they said we want our own unique yeast strain. So they sent our master distiller down into the Brazos Valley and said, find us a wild yeast. So he goes down, he gets 120 samples of things like bark, nuts, roots, berries, living things like that. Brings those samples back up to DFW. At that time, we didn't have our own fancy whiskey labs like you see over here. So he goes to TCU, borrows their labs, and is able to isolate 10 viable yeast strains. With those 10 yeast strains, we make 10 small batches of product, and then unanimously vote on one yeast to use for our bourbon. The yeast strain that we chose came off the shell of this pecan you see here in our master distiller's hands. So now I ask you guys, what could be more Texan than a yeast strain found on the shell of a pecan? We call it our Brazos strain. And just to reiterate, the first distillery since Prohibition to use our own proprietary yeast strain. So that next 25% flavor I was talking about downstairs that comes from the yeast, very unique to just our product. Now, let's talk about what you guys are seeing here in front of you. So like I said, cooked mash over there, pipe it into our fermenting tank. We then add that yeast strain to it. That yeast start to feed on those sugars, produce that alcohol and that carbon dioxide. So all of this motion that you're seeing here, that kind of gentle bubbling, that slow kind of sliding around, the occasional big surge of energy, we're doing none of that ourselves. There's nothing in this tank spinning that product around, making anything move. All of that motion that you're seeing is just the yeast producing that carbon dioxide and kind of jettisoning itself around. Now, you've not tried just all that. I know some of you guys are looking at this, you're looking at me, and you're like, hey, Corey, you guys are cooking that, right? It's super hot. That's why it's moving around, right? Almost the opposite. Yeast actually is most effective between 65 and 75 degrees. Now, Colorado, where are you? You know that it's not 65 to 75 degrees here that often. So once about every hour or so, if you feel the side of the tank, this thing will start to feel like a refrigerator. Because we actually have to keep this product as cool and productive as possible. Now, here, we're going to let this product ferment for between 3 and 5 days. After that 3 to 5 day period, we're going to take this 18,000 gallons and pipe it over to our 25,000 gallon beer tank. Now, once that product makes it to the beer tank, it does not stop moving until it hits the barrel. So if you come back during production hours, which is Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, you will see a lot of iron swirling in the beer tank because we do mix that product ourselves. Now, from the beer tank, we're going to take that product, pipe it to the top of our column still, and then drop it. Inside of our column still, we have 16 sieve trays. If you don't know what a sieve tray is, picture a little staircase running back and forth, kind of slow the descent of that mash. Now, while that mash is falling, at the same time, we're going to pipe in hot steam from the bottom. That steam's going to rise, interact with that mash, separate that ethanol and those flavors, and then rise back to the top of the column still in a vapor form. Once it's in that vapor form, we're going to run that vapor through a chilled pipe to condense it back down into a liquid. It'll then come out of that nozzle right there on the left side of our spirit safe. That's what's called low wine. At that point, it's 140 proof. And technically speaking, it is a distilled spirit at that point. However, here at TX, it's not good enough for us yet. We're going to distill this product one more time. So we're going to take our low wine, send it out front to that pot still I told you not to touch, boil it, vaporize it, condense it back down again. It'll then come out of that nozzle on the right side of our spirit safe as what's called high wine. At that point, it's 145 proof. Now, there are a bunch of names you use for that product right there. Maybe you've heard distilleries use like White Lightning. We tend to call it White Dog. Remember, clap, rub, air out, smell. Clap, rub, air out, smell. First time, hand sanitizer. Second time, clap, rub, air out, smell. A little bit grainier, a little bit more corn-like. And then one last time, clap, rub, air out, smell. I actually don't care what you say, that is a very bready, yeasty smell there by the end. Isn't that crazy? 145 proof. Legend has it, it makes a man blind. You signed the waiver. There we go, 145 proof. Just a little taste. Let's see what's going on. A little bit. I think we're making it. There we go. No pressure. 145 proof. All of our barrels come from Lebanon, Missouri, from the Independent Stave Company. Now, the reason we do this is the independent stave company uses the wood from white oak trees that are between 60 and 100 years old. So we will use their product. Now, at the independent stave company, they will char the inside of our barrels by lighting them on fire for about 45 seconds. They'll then douse them with water to stop the burning, and then leave it in their stave yard to season for 3 to 6 months. What that process is doing is it's caramelizing the inside of the barrel to kind of bring out those natural flavors and sugars of that wood, so that whenever we add our white dog to it, it can get into those staves, grab that flavor, and become our product. Now, what allows the white dog to get in and out of those staves? Heating and cooling. What do we do really well here in Texas? It gets hot here in Texas. When it gets hot, pores in those staves open up. Like I said, that white dog gets in there, grabs that flavor, and then at night in the wintertime, whenever it cools off, that stave will act like a sponge and kind of squeeze it back out into the barrel. So over the course of its aging process, that's how we get our unique flavor. Now, here I have one of our used staves from the past. And if you can see that really dark line running down the middle of it, that's what we call our soak line. That's how deep into the stave our product will get over the course of its aging. Now, here at TX, we will age our product specifically for 4 Texas summers. 4 Texas summers. Now, just in case any of you guys are familiar with other bourbons, I know what you might be thinking whenever I say 4 years. Oh, Kentucky ages theirs 7 years, 8 years. Why do you guys only age yours 4? Listen, because it gets so hot here in Texas, it's almost like a cheat code aging bourbon here. So we can achieve that same level of quality as a Kentucky 7-8 year in only 4 years. Now, over here on this far left-hand side, we have that white dog you guys tried upstairs. Every year that goes by, you can kind of see it get a little bit darker, harness a little bit more of those flavors, that natural sugar. You also might notice that the quantity decreases just a little bit year by year. The reason for that is every year that we age our product, we lose between 3 and 5% to evaporation alone. In the bourbon industry, we call that the angel's share. We want the angels on our side, especially here in Texas. So next time you're thinking to yourself, man, it's hot outside. Why do I live here? Why did I leave Greeley, Colorado? Just think to yourself, man, it's a great day for bourbon. We'll survive. We'll figure it out. Now, we are going to step over to our right-hand side of whiskey, which is going to be our bourbon. Now, this is the product of everything we just finished talking about. So think about that big column still, think about Sawyer Farms, that unique yeast strain, our barrels, all of that is this product right here. Kind of like you did with the first one, if you want to pick that product up, over to the right, to the window. Notice that difference in color, a little bit darker, a little bit more of that reddish shade to it. It is a slightly higher proof whiskey. It's going to be a 90 proof as opposed to that 82. So just a little bit warmer, but still very approachable. Now, whenever you guys are ready, you can take that first drink. We're going to do the same thing with the water, so maybe only drink about half of it, and then look for some of those flavors and shout those out for me. This should be a very different product, whole different set of flavors coming out of this one. There we go, that's a great one. One more time. Yeah, right.
Spicy.
It should be pretty noticeable.
Get the cinnamon?
Flavor. There you go.
Cinnamon.
Oaky, yeah, we definitely call it an oaky, smoky kind of flavor. Really kill the barrels, that char.
More of the spices for sure.
There we go. Okay, so let's talk about that front end versus that back end flavor. So right there at the beginning, slaughter distillers like to describe as an allspice. Another word for that could be like a cinnamon or a nutmeg, a little bit more of that kind of pepperier flavor. Then on the finish of that flavor is what they like to describe as a dark sweetness, like a caramel or a brown sugar, as opposed to that lighter sweetness of vanilla that's really prominent at the first tasting. The one that you're trying right there is what he calls his lavender cucumber cocktail. The ingredients in that is going to be our blended whiskey, which is the first one that you tried, chamomile tea, cucumber juice, lemon juice, lavender honey, and Topo Chico. So just a symphony of flavors coming together, if you ask me. Now, where do we find ourselves now? This is what we call our barrel breezeway. What this is a replica of the rick house that we have out back. Now, for legal reasons here in the state of Texas, we can't take you out to the rick house because it's what the TABC calls a spark hazard. So no electronics, no phones, no watches, obviously very dangerous. But listen to me, on a personal note, you guys would hate the rick house. Okay, no electricity out there. It is pitch black, it is stupid humid, it is insanely hot. In the summertime, it peaks at like 160 degrees. Very unpleasant. We're going to stay in here where it's lit up in climate control. You're welcome. A couple of differences though between here and the brick house. If you notice, these barrels are stacked 5 high. Out in the brick house, they're going to be stacked 5 high, but times 5 stories. So a lot more barrels out there. Just in case you're curious, these are going to be our used empty barrels. Obviously, out in the brick house, they're going to be full aging our product. Now, a couple of notes about our quality control here on the ranch. At least once per year, every barrel will be tapped and tasted, given tasting notes, scanned into a little barcode, so at the end we can blend those barrels together to go for our consistent flavor. Now, there are distilleries out there that will move their barrels around the rick houses and ages to expose them to different climates, temperatures, breezes. That's how they go for their consistency. Here, we do not do that. All of our barrels stay put all 4 years. No rotating, no moving around, nothing. Again, blended at the end for that consistency. Now, also while we're tasting, we have the opportunity to look for what we call a honey barrel, or just a fancy term for an exceptional barrel that we think exemplifies exactly what we're going for here at this distillery. When we find a honey barrel, which is very rare, I'd say maybe 1 to 2 a year, instead of blending that barrel together with others, we'll just fill as many bottles as we can out of that one barrel and release them to you, the public, as what we call a single barrel release, or just the best of the best bourbon that we have. Now remember, that's a very rare thing. Now, today, our master blender released his favorite single barrel. So that's in the store too. I know I've overloaded you guys with experimentals, but single barrels here too. So sorry.
Yes, you ready? Neighbor. Good neighbor. Good neighbor. Okay, N-E-I-G-H-B-O-R-D-O-N. Neighbor Don? Did you want to say good neighbor Don? Okay. Good neighbor Don. Rock Bernie. G-E-R-N-I-C. Yes. All right, for the Bourbon Amigos.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. All right, there's your Bulldog services, my friend.
This concludes the TX Distillery Tour here in Fort Worth, Texas. Highly recommend for anybody in the area coming down to visit, family, passing through, whatever. Awesome experience, awesome place.
Today was Military Appreciation Day, so I want to thank all the vets that were here today, all the people that showed us support. We're a small channel, but we're going to come up. Thank you.